Okay, we're going to start Module 4, Lesson 6 in this video. This lesson is on systems of measures. We'll be converting American units, or are they called American or US? I don't know. Let's see, they are called US. There we go. So US units to US units, then we're going to convert metric to metric, and then last we're going to convert US to metric. So this is our measurement section. You have a little practice fun thing to do here. I'm not going to go over that in this video. If you want to do it, you can. You can look it up online and see if you got the answers right. But I'm just trying to do the bare bones here since this is a summer school class and we don't have a lot of extra time. But these first two pages are kind of fun. They just kind of acquaint you with different systems of measure and what would be more likely a good measure for something. So fun little exercise if you want to do the first two pages. This next page you definitely want to print because you get to use this on your test. So there's two things you get to use on your Chapter 4 quiz and your Chapter 4 test. So the formulas for perimeter, area, and volume, which were under Module 4, Lesson 4, this formula sheet. And then this conversion sheet, which is Module 4, Lesson 6. So both of these can be used on the Chapter 4 Module 4 test and on the final exam. Okay, so those are the two that you want to print for test day, and don't write on them. You're not allowed to write on them, but you can use them on the test. So those are the two things you want. And then there's some other practice here. Like I said, we're just going to do the ones, that are like the test, but this just is some more conversions, kind of like the conversion sheet we already have. So the next 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages we're not going to do. And finally, on student page D is where we're going to start, where we actually do the conversions. So you can look through all that other stuff. There's some cool things in there. I just included a lot of it because a lot of students say they feel really unfamiliar with this section. So I tell them, go through the exercises, familiarize yourself with it, and then hopefully you'll become more comfortable. But this sheet will help you a lot, and we're going to refer to this on every single problem. So keep that handy after you print it. So we're going to start with US to US conversions, and you will need your calculator on this. So this says gallons to quarts. So I immediately on the side write gallons and quarts. Why do I do that? Because to convert from US to US or US to metric, we use proportions, or at least I do. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think proportions are easiest, and the students usually do really well on it. And the most important thing about a proportion is that, and you learn this in Chapter 3, is that it's set up consistently. So gallons must be in the numerator and quarts must be in the denominator. So I first pull my conversion sheet over and I copy the gallons and quarts from here. So it's capacity. Capacity is how much you can fit in a pitcher, how much you can fit in a glass. That's what capacity is. So it says 4 quarts equal 1 gallon. So where quarts is, I put 4, and where gallons is, I put 1. So it's not always in the same order as a formula sheet. It says 4 quarts equal 1 gallon. So the first fraction is always filled in from the conversion sheet. And then the second fraction you fill in from the wording. How many gallons, so since it says how many gallons, my X goes there, are in 8 quarts. So there's my quarts. And then I do exactly what you guys did in Chapter 3. In Chapter 3, or Module 3, the very last part of that section was solving proportions. So you set your cross products equal. This cross product is 4 times x, and this cross product is 1 times 8. So I get 4x equal 8, and we learned in chapter 3 to solve an equation you do the opposite. The opposite of multiply is divide. So then I get x equals 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then to get the proper label, I look at where x is. X is gallons. So that's why I like proportions, because everything's set up the same. Gallons over quarts, gallons over quarts. And at the end, I don't have to reread my problem. I can just look where x is, and wherever it is, that's the label on my answer. So that's how most of our conversions in this section are going to be. You can do it with metric to metric, but I have another way I like a little bit better that I'm going to show you. But you can do it from US to US, metric to metric, US to metric. So pretty much every problem in this section is like that. Okay, so next we have how many pounds are in 38 ounces. So I see pounds and I see ounces. And then I set up my fraction, and I usually just keep it in the same order as the problem. If you switch it around, that's fine, because all that really matters is that you're consistent. So then I bring my conversion sheet over. Pounds and ounces are weight. So I see 16 ounces equals 1 pound. So I put 16 where ounces is and 1 where pound is. So 16 ounces equal 1 pound. Then I look at the problem to fill in the second part. So 38 ounces goes here, and it says how many pounds, so that means pounds is my x. And again, you just do the same thing every time. Set your cross products equal, so 16 times x equals 38. And the opposite of multiply is divide, so I divide both sides by 16. And you get to use a calculator on this chapter, although you do not get to use it on your final exam. So I would say you should be able to do this by hand and by calculator for your final exam. So for the final exam by hand, you would say 16 goes into 38 2 times, because 16 times 2 is 32, with, draw the line, change the sign, with 6 left over. So this would be 2 and 6 sixteenths. Both even, so we can divide by 2. So this would be 2 and 3/8, and then I look at what I've found pounds. So that's how you would do it by hand. By calculator, of course it's much faster, but remember on the final you can't use a calculator. We just type in 38, and we don't do divided by 16, because look what happens. It gives us a decimal. And we know that if the problem's in fractions, the answer is supposed to be in fractions. And Alex will tell you, write your answer as a fraction or mixed number. So instead what we do is we use the fraction bar, because we don't want a decimal answer. So we do 38 fraction bar 16, and ding, 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 ding. Same answer we just got by hand. Woohoo! So yes, the calculator's faster and easier, and after this class, more than likely you'll be able to use it a good majority of your math life. But we just have to remember the final's coming up after this module, and so we have to be able to do things both ways. Okay, so I think, let's see, this one's a little bit tough. So I think these two are both pretty easy. So why don't you guys shut off your video and try 3 and 4 on your own. So cups and pints are going to be under capacity, and the other one is feet and miles, which will be under length. feet and miles right there on the bottom. Okay, so go ahead and see how you do on those two, and then I'll work with the fraction one with you. It's not hard when you have a calculator, but I'll go over that one. So you guys try 3 and 4 and then turn the video back on and we'll check them together. Okay, so this one we're comparing cups and pints. So get our fraction ready, and we look over here and we see 2 cups equals 1 pint. So we put 2 on the cup side, 1 on the pint side. So 2 cups equals 1 pint. And then we go to the problem for the second fraction. How many cups? So cups is going to have the X up there, equals 18 pints. And then just like on the first two, we set our cross products equal. 1 times X is just X. It's 1X, but 1X is the same thing as X. And set that equal to 2 times 18, which is 36. And then to see where the X is, it is under cups. And there's my answer. So you can see these are very fun, very easy, a lot like what we did in Module 3. So pretty fun stuff, right? Especially when you have a calculator. Okay, so next we have feet and miles. So feet over miles. So set up our 2 fractions. Go to our conversion sheet. Feet and miles are length. So 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So 5,280 goes under feet in 1 mile. So there's from our formula sheet. Now we plug in from the problem. How many feet? That means our X goes with feet, and miles is 2.8. So again, going this way, 1 times X is 1X or just X. And then going this way, we have 2.8 times 5280. So 2.8 times 5280. And that gives us 2.8 times 5,280, 14,784. And that would be 14,784. And I look where X is on the feet side. So that's how many feet would be in 2.8 miles, which makes sense because there's a little over 5,000 in 2 miles, or in 1 mile. 15,000 about would be in 3 miles, so a little under 15,000. So that answer totally makes sense. Okay, so let's go on to number 5. How many ounces are in 7.5 pounds? So you do not want to write that as a decimal. That's the first thing like 90% of the students do. Well, what if Alex gives you 7 1/3? You can't write that as a decimal because that's 7.33333333. So keep it as a fraction so that you can do it no matter what the fraction is. So we're comparing ounces and pounds. So ounces over pounds. And I think we already looked that up earlier. 1 pound, 16 ounces. So 1 pound, 16 ounces. So under ounces, we put 16, under pounds, 1. So how many ounces are in 7.5 pounds? So how many ounces? X, 7.5 here. And like I said, do not write it as 7.5 because then you're not going to know how to do it when Alex gives you 7 4/7, because that goes into a decimal that goes on forever. And if you round it, you won't get the correct answer. They only want exact answers unless they ask you to round. So how do we do this? Well, 1 times x is 1x, or just x. And then in the calculator, we're going to do 16 times 7.5. So I don't know if any of you have forgotten how to type in a mixed number to the calculator, but if you have, watch closely. So this is 16 times 7 fraction bar 1 fraction bar 2. So anytime you are typing in a mixed number, you have to hit the fraction bar twice. And students always go, well, I don't understand. Why do you hit it twice? Well, otherwise the calculator without this in is going to think this is 71/2. You need something to keep the whole number away from the fraction. So that's how this calculator is set up, to just hit the fraction bar twice in between each number so it knows this is the whole number and this is the fraction. Hit enter and a calculator does its magic. 120. And we could do this, it would be a lot of work, but we could do this by hand too. If we were multiplying by hand, we'd write 16/1 times 14 plus 1 is 15/2. And then we divide 2 and 16 out like we learned in Module 3, and then you'd have 15 times 8. 2 goes into 2 once, into 16, 8, and 15 times 8 is, guess what? 120. So a tiny bit more work by hand, but not much. And remember, everything in this chapter has to be labeled. Labels are 1 point for every problem. In fact, Alex takes the whole points away if you don't put the correct label. So always be careful with the labels. So X is ounces. So that means there's 120 ounces in 7.5 pounds. So that wasn't so bad with the calculator, pretty easy, right? Okay, so this next one's telling us to write as a mixed number, which we did up here, so we know how to do that. So we're doing yards and feet. So we will write yards first, feet second. So looking on our formula sheet, yards and feet are length. So 3 feet, oops, sorry, that's a little bit blurry. So 3 feet, 1 yard, which I think most of you probably know, right? So put 1 where yard is, 3 where feet is, and that's important. If you write 3 here and 1 here, you'll get it wrong. 3 feet, 1 yard. And then it says 14 feet, so we put 14 here. And how many yards? That means the X goes here. So now we set our cross products equal. 3 times X equals 1 times 14, which is 14. Divide by 3. And remember, the direction says write as a mixed number. So let's do it by hand and by calculator again. So 3 into 14. 3 times 4 is 12. Draw the line, change the sign. 14 minus 12 is 2. So we can see that's 4 2/3. So X equals 4 2/3. Yards is X, yards. And what I like to do and what I tell students to do is when it's a nice small number like that, do it by hand and then verify it in the calculator. So in the calculator, because we want a mixed number, we don't want to hit the division key. That will give us a decimal. We want to use fraction. So we do 14 fraction bar 3, and the calculator will turn it into a mixed number for us. Boom! Same answer we got by hand. So that's pretty cool being able to verify that, right? Okay, so next we have pints and gallons. Okay, when we look at the formula sheet though, we go, oh wow, that's weird. There's no pints to gallons. So that's where Gallon Man comes in. So I'm trying to think, someone in one of my 08 classes taught me this, and I have used it every single time I come to a problem like this and in real life. Because if someone asks me how many ounces are in a gallon, I don't know right off the top of my head. How many pints are in a gallon? So this is what I do. I just draw a quick picture. So let me get, so this is Gallon Man, and there might have been, no, I don't think there was a picture of Gallon Man in our notes. Some of the notes had a Gallon Man in them, but I don't think ours did. So we're going to draw him. And drawing him will help you remember how to do it, because once you do it once, it's so easy. At least I feel like I will never forget it. So this is a 1 gallon jug. Think of it as a gallon of milk. So we know there's 4 quarts in a gallon. Our formula sheet will tell us that. And I'll just show you, verify it. 4 quarts, 1 gallon. So I divide my gallon into 4 quarts. And this is only what I do when it's not on the sheet. Like this next one is cups and quarts. So I look and go cups and ounces, cups and pints. Oh, it's not on there either. So I'll be able to use Gallon Man on both of these. But ones that are on the formula sheet, obviously you don't need to do this. Then you cut each quart in half. And 2 pints make a quart. And again, that is on your formula sheet. It tells you 2 pints, 1 quart. So pint, 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 pint. I sound like an English person asking for a beer. Okay, so then each pint is 2 cups. So really what I'm doing is cutting in half. Well, first I cut it in fourths, then I cut it in half, and then I cut it in half again. Every pint has 2 cups. So after I get my little picture drawn, you can ask me anything you want. You can ask me how many cups are in a quart. You can ask me how many cups are in a pint. You can ask me how many cups are in a gallon. So everything, just after you do the initial cut it into 4 for quarts, 4 quarts equal a gallon, everything gets cut in half. Cut each quart in half and make 2 pints. Cut each pint in half and make 2 cups. So now when they say, how many pints are in a gallon? I go, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know 8 pints equal 1 gallon. And you don't even need a formula sheet to do this, as long as you remember after you cut it in 4, you do half and then half again. So each of the quarts get cut in half for pints, each of the pints get cut in half for 2 cups. And so I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pints is 1 gallon, because that's what I need here. Let's go ahead and do the next one too. Get it ready. Cups and quarts. So here's a quart. How many cups are in the quart? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can see 4 cups are in a quart. Do I remember that stuff in real life? Heck no. But the minute I get this picture drawn, piece of cake. So 4 orange cups in 1 quart. So I'm going to write that here. 4 cups equal 1 quart. Yeah, maybe if I cooked more, I might have some of this memorized, but definitely not my area of expertise. Okay, so now we're ready to do both of these. Yep, they're not on the formula sheet, but we found them ourselves. So this one's pints to gallons. And we know 8 pints, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equals 1 gallon. So 8 pints, 1 gallon. And then we look at what's given. How many pints? So there's where our X goes in 3 gallons. And then I can do it in my head. X equals 24. So going across this way, 1 times X is X. Going across this way, 8 times 3 is 24. So that would be 24, and X is where the pints are. And that makes sense, right? If there's 8 pints in 1 gallon, if you multiply this by 3, then you multiply that by 3 to get the 3 gallons. So cool, huh? I love Gallon Man because I would have to sit and like think really hard and do all these math calculations, and now all I do is draw a quick picture and I can answer any question anyone wants. Love it. So I love it when students bring me things that they learned in their high school classes or other classes, because then I just build my toolbox. Okay, this one's cups and quarts. So we have our little thing here. In 1 quart, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 cups. So 4 cups in 1 quart. And we can see that clearly from the picture. And then it says how many cups, so put your X there, in 15 quarts. So once again, we set our cross products equal. 1 times X is X. 4 times 15. That means 15 times 2 times 2. 15 times 2 is 30. Times 2 is 60. And we look here to see what the label is. Cups. So 60 cups are in 15 quarts. Beautiful. I love this section. I think it's such a fun section. Okay. There's some more over here to practice. And we'll do one video for each of the different conversions. So right now we're doing 2 pages of US to US. Next we're going to do 2 pages of metric to metric. That'll be the second video. Next we're going to do US to metric. That'll be the third video. So I'll just divide them up so that they're all separate that way. So they might not all be the same length, but it doesn't matter. Okay, how many inches are in 5 feet 10 inches? So a lot of you can probably do that in your head. And if you can, that's fine. You just go 5 times 12 plus 10. But let's say you can't. If you can't do it in your head, you can continue on with the methodology we learned on the last page. We're trying to do inches to, or actually feet to inches. We're trying to turn feet into inches. And so for right now, we're just going to circle this because we need to add that on to our answer later. Right now, we're just converting 5 feet into inches. And like I said, I know a lot of you know it's 60. If you know it's 60 without doing any work, boom, 60 plus 10, 70. But if you don't know that, this is how you would do it. So feet to inches is measurement, 12 inches, 1 foot, which I'm sure you all know. So 1 foot, 12 inches. So the 1 has to go with feet. The 12 has to go with inches. This is 5 feet. And we're trying to convert it to inches. So this cross product is 1 times x equals x. And then 12 times 5, which is 60. But then, and it's inches, we have to add that. So this is 60 inches. But then we have to add it to the 10 inches. So 60 inches plus 10 inches gives us a total of 70 inches. Because they didn't just ask us how many inches are in 5 feet. They asked us how many inches are in 5 feet, 10 inches. So 60 plus 10, 70 inches. Pretty nice, right? Okay, so I want you to mess around with number 10 and see if you can do that one. So we're doing inches to feet. Well, we're going to turn it to feet and inches, but first just concentrate on this and write it as a mixed number, not a decimal. So just do inches to feet right now, and then I'll show you how to convert it into feet and inches. It's real easy after you get your answer. So make 110 inches into feet as a mixed number. So go ahead and turn it off. See if you can do that one, and then join me back up and we'll see how you did. Okay, so inches to feet. So we know from the formula sheet, we already got it up here, 12 inches, 1 foot. And we're trying to do 110 inches into X number of feet. So going this way, we get 12 times X. Going this way, we get equals 110. Divide by 12, divide by 12. And I'm going to do this one by hand, and I'll show you why. Because when you do it by calculator, 110 fraction bar, whoops, turn on the calculator, Kim. That always works, doesn't it? 110 divided by 12, or, not divided by, gee, whoa. 110 fraction bar 12, we'll turn it into a mixed number. But they simplify it so it's hard to tell. Well, it's 9 feet, but I don't know how many inches it is. But when you do the long division by hand, and this one's on the test, by the way, so very good one to highlight. I think it's the first question on the test, matter of fact. I know it's right up there in the beginning. I think it's number 1. So for our long division, we're going to divide 12 into 110. So 12 doesn't go into 1, 12 doesn't go into 11, so we got to do the whole 12 times what gives us 110 or less. So I know 12 times 10 is 120, because when we multiply by 10, we move the decimal. So let's start with 9. So 18, carrier 1, 9, 10. Oh, look at that. Bingo. So 12 times 10 is 120. 110 is pretty close to 120. That's why I started with 9. Plus, I kind of snuck a look here, and I knew the feet were going to be 9. Little sneaky. So draw the line, change the sign, and this is how we get the feet in inches. 9 feet, 2 inches. So the remainder are the inches because it's 2 out of 12. 2 out of 12 is 2 inches. So there we have it. 9 feet, 2 inches is what 110 inches turn into in feet and inches. So the key on that is to know to do it by hand. Because you do it in the calculator, yeah, you get the 9, but how are you going to convert that into inches? I mean, Personally, what I would do is I'd multiply this by 2 and this by 2, and that gives me 2/12. Then I would know it's 2 inches. But would the average student know to do that? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. So by hand makes it super easy. The quotient is your feet. The remainder are your inches. Okay, cups and gallons. I think that's another gallon man. So how many cups are in 1 gallon? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 16 cups in 1 gallon. So we write, let's just write it right here, 16 cups in 1 gallon. And I'll show you another thing you can do when it's real easy like this. And I know this is on your quiz too and on your test, so it's kind of a cool thing. So if you can multiply one of the numbers into that, as long as you do it to both sides, you don't upset the balance. So does everybody agree to make it into 2 gallons? I got to multiply this side by 2. So that means I also have to multiply this side by 2. Because remember, an equal sign is like a balance. Whatever you do to one side of the teeter-totter, you got to do to the other. If I double the weight on the right side, I need to double the weight on the left side to get equivalent measures. So that means 2 gallons equals 32 cups. So when it's real easy like that one, and you can just multiply one of the sides, and I think they give you 3 in Alex on your test. If you can multiply one of the sides to get that number, you just multiply by the same thing on the other side to get the second number. So 2 gallons equals 2 times 16, 32 cups. And that's what they want. How many cups are in 2 gallons? Nice, huh? Let's see. We're getting down on our time, so I'm trying to see which ones are on the test. Okay, I know 13's on the test, so I'm going to highlight that. Oh, 14 is too, so I'm going to highlight that. Okay, so let's do 12, 13, and 14, and then we'll end this video. So a garage has a drum that holds 30 gallons of motor oil. So 30 gallons. It takes 5 quarts to service a car. So we want to know how many cars can this service. Well, we won't know unless we turn it into quarts. Then we can divide 5 in it to see how many cars can be serviced. But when they're different units, you can't do it. So let's change 30 gallons to quarts. So gallon over quart. So we know from Gallon Man that a gallon is made up of 4 quarts. So 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. So 30 gallons is how many? And you guys probably guessed it already. You just got to multiply 30 by 4, and that is correct. 1 times x is x. 30 times, and set that equal to 30 times 4. So in that 30 gallon drum, I have 120 quarts. So now I can do a little fancy action with the calculator to figure out how many cars can be done. Each car takes 5 quarts. So 120 divided by each car, that gives me 120 divided by 5, 24 cars. because each car is 5 quarts, so I divide 5 into how many are in the drum, and that tells me how many cars can be serviced. So 24 cars can be serviced. So we can use our conversions to help us with problems like that when the units aren't the same, because that's our goal, is to make the units the same, make them both gallons or both quarts. And this would have been 1 1/4 gallons, so that's kind of like not a pretty number, but this was a nice number when you did the quarts. But you could have done it the other way as well. Okay, so there's one like these two problems that I have highlighted here, and I'm going to do one. I'm going to let you do the other one because they're almost identical problems, so great to practice on. So we have 2 tons, 15 pounds were produced the first day, and 2 tons, 1,600 pounds the next day. How much coal did the mine produce in the 2 days? So hopefully everybody knows that means plus, right? Add the first day to the second day. So we go over here and we say 2 tons, 1,500 pounds, plus the second day 2 tons, 1,600 pounds. So when we add those, we get 4 tons, 0, 0, 11, carrier 1, 3,100 pounds. So that is the most common wrong answer on Alex. So why is it wrong? Because it's not simplified. So we can go to our weight measurements and we see 2,000 pounds is a ton. So I can't have over 2,000 pounds here because that's 2,000 pounds is a ton. So this is what you should do in your head. Whether you show it or not, it doesn't matter. So you need to take 2,000 pounds away from this one and add a ton here, because this number cannot be over 2,000. So subtract 2,000 and add a ton. So students go, I just don't understand. How are you allowed to do that? Well, think about if I gave you $1 and you gave me back 4 quarters. They're still the same. So I lost $1, but then I got $1 back. I lost a ton, but then I got a ton back. So it's called regrouping. It's not any magical thing. I just used what was on the formula sheet. 2,000 pounds equal a ton. So take a ton off of this and add a ton here to simplify it or regroup it. So the final simplified answer is 5 tons, 1,100 pounds, and now that's under 2,000, which it needs to be. So that's called regrouping to simplify, because this number can't be more than a ton. So take a ton away, add a ton, because 2,000 pounds equals 1 ton. And you're going to do the same thing on the next one. So go ahead and do that one. Shut off the video, see if you can get the answer simplified, and then come back and we'll check it together. Okay, so we have 2 packages to mail. One is 1 pound, 14 ounces, and the other is 3 pounds, 7 ounces. And find the total, and everybody knows in math, total means add, right? So find the total, so we're going to add these just like we did on the last one. 3 plus 1 is 4 pounds. 14 plus 7 is 21 ounces. But again, we have a problem. Let's go to our weight. 16 ounces equal a pound. So I can't have over 16 ounces. So I need to take a pound away from this and add a pound to that. So let me bring it over here so it's easier to show. So to take a pound away from the ounces, 16 ounces is a pound. So take a pound away, add a pound. And it's just like giving $1 away and getting 4/4 back. Just different units. So minus a pound, plus a pound, because on the formula sheet it says 16 ounces equal 1 pound. So then this turns into 5 pounds, and this turns into 21 minus 16, 5 ounces. And that would be your simplified answer. So 5 pounds, 5 ounces. Okay, so that is the first of 3 parts. This is kind of a long section of 1.6. So in the next video, we'll do student page E, the second part. See you then.